Room 442 is presented by North Star Bets. That's a win.
Good morning, football fans. Welcome to Room 442. I'm James Sharman. He's Albert Vatanian. She's Sarah Peraria. The Premier League is getting down to its run-in, its stretch run. I think we're saying, 8 games left or so? It's close enough, right?
Yeah.
9.
Is it 9? Depending on who you
9
are,
for
right?
some, 8 for
Yeah,
some.
that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, a lot of teams would hope there were 9 because they need the points right now. There's so many great races right at the top, of course, for the Champions League spots and, of course, at the bottom. Here's how it looks right now. The top half of the table sees Arsenal on 73 points, 6 up on Man City. Man City with 9 games to play, of course. They're all-important game in hand. They also play each other, of course, in a couple of weeks' time as well. And look at that race for 4th place right now. Spurs very much in the hunt. Villa, out of nowhere, have made a real go of it so far. So lots of huge points available. But really, could it be said the drama is at the bottom of the table at the moment? This is just nuts. Southampton, they're kind of separating themselves right now in dead last on 23 points. Leicester on 25. Look at Forest and Everton, both on 27. Leeds very much in that race as well, as is Bournemouth, as is West Ham. Wolves, dare I say Crystal Palace? It's just crazy, isn't it, at the moment? I mean, would you say that is where the real drama is right now, Sarah, at the bottom of the table, given how many clubs are involved?
Yeah, I think that we've been here for a couple of weeks now where the bottom has been so exciting. I mean, it changes every week. Look at Bournemouth in 15th. They were at the bottom, just above Southampton only a couple weeks back. And now I actually think Bournemouth might be able to stay up in the Prem if they have a good run. It's really exciting. And we've been saying this from the beginning of the season, though. I do think a big team is going down. And whether that's Leicester, Everton, Leeds, it's
West Ham.
West Ham.
Could it be?
Could it?
Why not? Right?
I mean,
Based on the
listen-
way that they're playing, who knows how much time Moyes has?
And West Ham have, obviously, the Conference League to worry about, right? That's one distraction there as
Right,
well.
yeah.
Now, a lot of clubs will make hirings and firings to avoid relegation. Dean Smith, for example, just hired by Leicester after firing Brendan Rodgers. You're not a fan of this, are you?
No.
Let's hear now from Dean Smith why he took the job.
It's probably a season that I've not seen before in the Premier League, where 9 teams have all been involved at one stage in the relegation side of the league. And I feel the more that we can keep in that as well, I feel it's certainly not insurmountable to getting out of the trouble that we're in.
Looking at their record so far this season, no game's going to be easy for Leicester. But would you say they are the team that needs to survive more than any other, given their predicament with the players, the contracts, the size of the squad?
Yeah, I'm really concerned for Leicester City if they go down. If I have a feeling that might turn into a Leeds situation where they go down and maybe they don't come back up. Because some of the moves that they made, and I talked about this earlier in the season, you can't lose your top keeper and one of your top center backs and not replace them adequately. They didn't do that. And obviously you have Jamie Vardy, who's led them with goals for so many years. He's kind of falling off a bit. It's a new generation of Leicester City. But if they do go down, I think it's going to be very difficult for them to come back. And the reason I don't like the whole Dean Smith thing is we've talked about this before with the Premier League recycling managers. Give someone else a try. I know it's only in the interim.
Yeah.
But let's take a look at Dean Smith's recent history in the Premier League. Okay, he was at Villa, had some success, but he had Jack Grealish, who was phenomenal. John Terry is there with him. Then he was with Norwich, who arguably, outside of Derby, one of the worst seasons a Premier League team has ever had. So he's been unsuccessful in the Premier League. And now you bring him into Leicester City that needs a ton of help. And you bring John Terry and Craig Shakespeare, who was also there at Leicester, who took over for Ranieri and was unsuccessful at Leicester.
But he
as well.
was there at Leicester when they won.
He
as
was
assistant coach.
as an assistant,
Yeah.
right? I don't like the appointment. I think they could have done a lot better. And to be honest, they probably should have kept Brendan Rodgers, but it's so far gone at this point.
Well, they tried for Graham Potter. He said no.
Yeah,
They tried for Jesse Marsh. He said no.
unbelievable.
As well. So, I mean, they did try and get some name hires,
Right.
and maybe they will this summer. The trouble is with that club in particular is that all their money comes from the ownership, which is based around airports and duty-free shops, which may not have been too successful the last few years, right? And that's why the money has just gone dry there. It's a real shame. But other teams there, Sarah, I mean, you look at Everton, you look at West Ham, you look at Nottingham Forest. Is there a team that you think more than others should be more nervous?
Besides Leicester, I mean, Everton's right there. Look at that. But I've been saying it for a while now. Leeds are what? They've played all 30 games and they're 29 points. So they're just 2 points above relegation zone. and they've been playing some awful football. I think they are really in contention to go down here, and that's a massive side to be going to the championship.
It's just 10 points separate Palace and Southampton. I think all those teams should be concerned. I was looking at the run-in for a couple of teams. Looking at Crystal Palace, they have the easiest run-in in the Premier League against Southampton, Everton, Wolves, West Ham, so teams in and around them, but games that they can win. Another team you really need to look at is Forest with the toughest run-in. United, Liverpool, Brighton, Brentford coming up next. That's a gauntlet.
Yeah, I think Forest are done. I think the Saints are going down.
Yeah.
I think Forest is going down, which is a real shame because they had to reinvent their entire squad. They signed almost 30 players this season.
What do you think about the chairman coming out once again and backing Steve Cooper?
Twice now.
I love that, by the way, but...
If it's legitimate and they
if it's
actually do back him,
legitimate,
I think Steve Cooper's done a good job in an impossible situation. I think at the same time, if you got to get some desperation points here, right? Maybe making a move is the right move for that new manager bounce. The way it works is essentially you stay in the Premier League, right? With TV and prize money, you can benefit $120 million per season, right? A lot of money. But if you go down, you get what's called parachute payments, right? So year 1 is $50 million in the bank. Year 2, $40 million in the bank. Year 3, $20 million in the bank. Year 4, nothing. So they do soften the blow somewhat for these relegated teams. But as you mentioned, Leeds, I think it was Wigan recently went down to non-league football.
Right.
They were in the Premier League. They won the FA Cup.
Sunderland.
Sunderland, another example, right? It's terrifying right now, but it's so tight. It's hard to say which team is favoured to go down outside Southampton. I hope Forest find a way because they're a huge club that, I think deserve to be where they're at. But, man, like I said, it's a brand new squad. They keep dropping points. It's going to be a fascinating couple of months to end the season. All right, when we come back, it'll be to the other end of the table, of course, Arsenal. And what about Man City? Is any team playing better football right now than Man City?
Room 442 is presented by North Star Bets. That's a win.
Welcome back to the top of the table now, and this is what happens for Man City and Arsenal this weekend. Coming up for you, the late kickoff today, Man City up against Leicester, and of course, we just discussed Leicester. That could be ugly. On Sunday, West Ham hosting Arsenal, a London derby, but of course, the Gunners playing such great football right now, very much favoured in that one. Let's hear now from the two managers, Pep Guardiola and Mikel Arteta.
The reality is 6 points behind. Nobody guarantee we're going to win the game against our games in hand. That is the best team in the world making the build-up. The best team is Brighton. There's no team better to make the process to bring the keeper the ball to the last quarter. There's no team better in modern football right now. And Arsenal at home, so the draw points, so no guarantee actually anything. The reality today, the table are 6 points behind. If you want to be draw, or we tight, or we close, you have to win our games.
Among other things, going to be a factor in the run-in to the title.
You need luck. You need luck in the right moment. That luck, why that luck is coming from, I think is really important, and how you think about it and what is going to happen. But yeah, it's another part in the sports. Sometimes about inches, and those inches has to go your way.
So it's all about luck, and Brighton's the best team in world football. You heard it right there, everyone. Here are the run-ins for these two teams. Of course, 6 points separating them. City with that game in hand. Listen, there's some challenges of both teams there. Overall, I'd say City have a slightly easier run-in. Sarah, why am I thinking I need to change my mind as far as who's going to win this thing? I've been saying it's going to be Arsenal for so long, but the more I think about it, I think, man, City, the way they're playing at the moment in particular, no one's better than them right now with respect to Brighton.
It was the game against Bayern Munich that did it for me, because I've been backing Arsenal from the beginning, but the way I saw City play against Bayern Munich, that was some of the best football I've seen this season. That was their best game, in my opinion, this season, and they looked like they are coming into form at the best time for this team and the worst time for Arsenal, unfortunately. Haaland is back and fit, still scoring goals. He hasn't fallen off that, goal scoring record he's on, and everyone else is playing solid football. John Stones, we talked about it earlier in the week, pushing up into a midfield position. Like it's incredible what Guardiola is doing with this side, but it is really bad news for Arsenal and Mikel Arteta right now.
Yeah, remember all those questions about how they're going to fit in Haaland into Manchester City, and maybe it's not going to work, even though he's scoring all these goals. Those questions have already been answered. Those are gone right now. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I was with Arsenal for a long time. They passed all those tests, but now to me, it's Manchester City's. And if you look at the run-ins, I'll keep going back to it. Arsenal have to go through. I know West Ham hasn't been great, but they have to go to London Stadium to win that game. Then they have City away, Chelsea at home, Newcastle away, Brighton, Nottingham Forest, and Wolves. And you can dismiss those Forest and Wolves games, but that's 2 games at the end of the season where both of those teams are fighting for their lives. Those are difficult fixtures.
You see City's playing Brighton next week at Brighton. That's probably part of the reason why Pep's already playing those mind games.
He shows De Zerbi a lot of love, I've noticed.
He does. I mean, listen, Brighton's wonderful, but the best team in the world right now from the goal out, I don't know about that.
It's a stretch.
So City take on Leicester this weekend. Is it getting to the point now where Haaland is becoming the storyline to watch each weekend, almost transcending the race itself? Because his approach towards a new record in the Premier League, 34 goals, of course, that'll beat Shearer, that'll beat Andy Cole in the Premier League era. Forget about the League Championship and the top flight era, because Dixie Dean had 60 goals back in 1928. And that was a legitimate league then as well, right? But it seems to me that what he's doing right now, the records he's smashing, he is almost becoming the must-watch part of the weekend for me.
Absolutely. When I watch City, I get disappointed if he doesn't score. And that's what's kind of concerning with me too, is that we have this expectation that he's going to score multiple goals. And I think some fans, at least I feel myself, maybe losing a bit of the appreciation of what I'm seeing from Erling Haaland, because now we expect it week in and week out. But what he's doing, no one else in world football is even coming close to. He's definitely one of one right now.
But I think it's also because he's such a strange footballer that if he's not scoring goals, he's not really doing a whole lot on the pitch. We saw, of course, that beautiful assist to Bernardo Silva during the midweek with the Champions League, but we don't really see that from Haaland. He's not assisting. He has very little touches on the pitch that I think when we don't see him score, it's also because we don't really see him in the match that much. So maybe that's why he's such an anomaly of what a football player is, and that he's so strange and there's really no one like him, that if he's not scoring, he's not really doing a whole lot.
Although we saw it in the Bernardo Silva goal last week, he was instrumental in that play to set up a wonderful pass.
Yeah.
So maybe Pep's getting his hands on Haaland and involving the player, because you're right now it's all about goal scoring, but I wonder, because Pep's Pep, no one else could actually say to Haaland, listen, you're scoring too many goals. If you can become more of them. It wouldn't surprise me at all if we see over the years Haaland become a more complete player, which might cost him some goals.
Probably, yeah. But his movement, he's so smart with his movement. It's a classic old school striker. And before he came to Manchester City, most of his goals at Dortmund were scored in and around the 6-yard box, what we're seeing with Manchester City. But the difference between a team like Dortmund and Manchester City, you have Bernardo Silva, you have Kevin De Bruyne, you have Ilkay Gundogan, you have Jack Grealish and Phil Foden to give you the balls, top level balls that you're not going to, service. That's the word I'm looking at, top level balls. Service.
Top level balls, I like that.
Top level. You're getting an expert service in and around you, and he can find those positions and fill those spots and score those goals. I just think his movement as a number 9 is probably second to none right now.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think it's overall a really good season for Pep, don't you think, as well? I'm not saying that he was being dismissed in recent seasons, but we kind of took him for granted. Oh, it's Pep, I have a very, very good team. But did he overthink certain times? But the way his team's playing right now, on for the treble, what we saw midweek against Bayern Munich, for example, the new formation, redefining a well-known centre-back's position as well. Pep's doing Pep. And I think once again, he's rising to the very, very top of... There's no comparison really now. Who is the best manager in world football, right?
I mean, I've never doubted Pep in my life, so, but no, truly what he's done with Bayern. And I think also we're starting to see that, okay, Man City can win the Champions League too, because I know we were a bit unsure about that, but yeah, Pep is rising to the occasion as he does, and it's dangerous.
You would think that at some point Pep and his what he's doing with his formation, his tactics would become stale. But he just keeps evolving.
Keeps it fresh.
John Stones, DM, fullbacks in the midfield position.
Carl Walker not even on the starting 11 at the expense of...
He turned Rico Lewis into an incredible fullback, into a midfielder that took the position off of Kyle Walker, who's been a stalwart for Manchester City. I mean, Pep, what he does is incredible.
Sarah, what do you have for this one, bet-wise?
This one was tricky, as you know. Leicester 19th, Man City in 2nd. But who am I going to target here? Of course, Erling Haaland. Erling Haaland to score first, plus 180. I like it. I think City are going to smash him, and, odds are the person that's going to get the goal first is Erling Haaland. But this one was really tricky because City are so favored.
I mean, even plus 180 for first goal scorer, it just shows just what this guy's doing right now, right? It's incredible. In the other match, of course, it is Arsenal up against West Ham. Bertie, you have the bet for this one?
Yeah, this was tricky for me too. I didn't know which way to go with this. I think Arsenal will win. They may concede, but I'm going with them to score or to win the first half. They got in a halftime in front all 4 of the last 4 fixtures. I also wouldn't mind targeting maybe both teams to score in over 2.5. Since the absence of Saliba, they conceded in every single game, and he's expected not to play.
Yeah, they missed him for sure. 3-1 it was Arsenal on Boxing Day, going down 1-0
Yeah.
in that one. Jesus back, and he's been an understated, incredible injection, like the old new signing cliche, because we know how good he was, but since he's returned, of course, Arsenal shown so much more ability moving forward.
Yeah, no, it's great that he came back scoring. The first game he came back in, he scored for Arsenal. Like, that's exactly what they need right now, because I think they're kind of having goals coming from all different kinds of players, but it takes some pressure off, the likes of Bukayo Saka.
Yeah.
And so I think this is just good news for Arteta, and it's good news for Gabriel Jesus too. It's really, I think it's just a good feeling when you see a player come back from injury and slot right back into where they were.
Yeah, talk about another player with incredible movement and technique, and he's more. I'm noticing he's more of a playmaker than an out-and-out goal scorer. He sets up Martinelli and Saka so well. Even Odegaard at the top of the box. I think Jesus has been great.
Martinelli's been, I think, for me, one of the performers of the season as well.
I'm pretty sure he's their top scorer as well.
Believe he is, yeah. I mean, listen, it could be Jesus had he not got hurt, of course.
Yeah.
He's got 3 in his last 2 games. But Martinelli has been that player. He's really, I won't say he's going to be the most improved player. He was pretty good last year as well. But he's just another force in that left wing. And if they spend a bit of money this summer, if they don't win this year, and listen, they might still, regardless, I think next year they're going to be a force on all fronts because they have that depth. Arteta's got that team ticking beautifully right now. And hey, listen, they could run the season and win this thing. We don't know, but we just give Man City too much credit because, hey, they're Man City, right?
Exactly.
When we come back, Chelsea against the best team in the world. I'm going to keep on that. I love that quote, by the way. It's amazing. Up against Brighton and much more. Don't go anywhere.
Room 442 is presented by North Star Bets. That's a win.
Chelsea's going to win. How much? 3-0. 3-0? Yeah.
Todd, what would you say to the fans after a really difficult 10 days?
I say have a lot of faith, and we're going to win 3-0 tonight.
Do you have any regrets at all about your stewardship so far of Chelsea?
We look at this as a very long-term process, and we had a lot of work to do, and we're excited about the future.
And as far as the fans are concerned, what would you say to them specifically about that future?
The future's bright, and we're excited about tonight.
They're going to win 3-0. They lost 2-0 to Real Madrid this past week.
What else is he going to say, Sharps?
I get that. You can say no comment or just don't mention a scoreline,
Yeah.
right? At what point do the players say, this is getting a bit embarrassing, Todd? We appreciate all the money. You know how to run baseball teams, clearly. But you need to keep your mouth shut just a little bit here because that doesn't go well with English football fans. 3-0. You're playing Real Madrid.
Definitely not English media.
No, yeah, precisely. You become a caricature.
Yeah.
Right? And that's
Which he
what he's
has,
becoming.
right? Yeah, he totally has. I mean, everything that you've seen, the James Corden thing, him playing video games on his phone and getting caught on camera at Stamford Bridge while the game is going on. So he didn't really say anything wrong there. But I totally get what you're saying.
Everything else is fine.
Yeah.
It's just
everything else I thought was bang on. He's
they're
like,
playing
this is
Real
a
Madrid.
project. Yeah.
Right? They're not favoured. And if you know football, there's a very low chance of winning that game. And you're saying we're going to win 3-0. It's like asking your kid, who's going to win tonight? My team's going to win 10-0. Right?
And Real Madrid's watching that being like, 3-0. We're going to go and beat them now 3-0 at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It's frustrating. They're playing Brighton today. Now, they've been scoreless in 4 games. Can we start the conversation a little bit on João Felix? At what point do we start saying, okay, yeah, it looks great, does everything right, smart player, has no idea how to score goals. And that was the MO on him at Atletico Madrid. Since he left, actually, they're playing great football.
Yeah.
One loss in, I think, 13 games. Is he really a £100 million player?
Absolutely not. And we said that in January.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then he
we were
got
hammering.
that red card, missed 3 matches. And then that price went up because obviously the ratio to games. That was foolish of Chelsea. I mean, great news for Simeone and Atleti, but no, was he never worth that much? We've seen him at Portugal. He was going to be that wonderkin, and then he wasn't. And same thing with Atletico.
Yeah.
He was one of those players that had so much hype behind him, but never lived up to it.
Yeah, he's an excellent player. He's just not a
Sure.
goal scorer. I mean,
Yeah.
it's right. We hammered this when this first happened. I'm like, Chelsea clearly need a striker. They still need a striker, but they decide to go out and get João Felix. I understand you have the money to sign these types of players on loan, which the number for that loan is ridiculous.
It's crazy,
anyway.
yeah. What it was now. But
yeah,
it was tens of millions.
Yeah, he wasn't the right guy at the time. Is he a piece you can add to a team? Absolutely, but he's not the guy who's going to get you goals, clearly.
Yeah, we'll see what happens this summer. I mean, that being said, I'm sure someone still spends 100 million on him.
Oh, for sure.
Someone will, right?
Yeah.
Because he shows enough out there.
And he's young enough, too.
He is, but he's kind of epitomizes Chelsea right now, sir, in that he looks okay out there. Chelsea doesn't look bad, right? Even with Frank Lampard now, 0-2 against Real Madrid, didn't look bad. They had their moments, could have scored goals, but as we discussed, they can't score goals. I don't know how far away they actually are. They might not be as far as we think they are. With a good summer, with a good manager coming in, be it Nagelsmann or Amaram, who's being discussed today, with a clear out or some dead wood, because you can't have the squad that big, they might not be that far away.
No, I think we're going to see a lot of these players go out on loan since their contracts are all, so long. But I think they're going to kind of clean out the locker room in a sense, get rid of some of these players, focus more on the players that they have, get them playing more consistently, and get a proper starting 11 so these players know how to play with one another. And yeah, with a good coach, the talent's there. Chelsea's one of the biggest football clubs in England. Like, I can't see this lasting too long, but they do need a bit of like a cleanup,
They'll be fine next year. They're literally a striker away from being a top 4 side in the Premier League. They have 2 stud keepers in Mendy and Kepa. They have 3 world-class center backs in Fofana, Thiago Silva, Koulibaly. They have 2 of the best wing backs, full backs in the Premier League. They have N'Golo Kante, Mateo Kovacic in the midfield. Now they have João Felix, Mudryk, who is going to adapt to the Premier League, and he'll be fine. Still have Raheem Sterling, who's got a bit of pace to him. He just needs a striker next to him. This team, they have all the pieces. I think they just need to get the right manager, let that manager do what he needs to do, bring in a striker, and this team will change.
It's the right mix they need, right? Simple as that, But I mean, it's a big squad. They got to sell the right players and not the wrong players. That's the thing,
Too
here,
big,
right?
Yeah, you can't have that many players coming in. I mean, obviously this is a completely different type of caliber of team, but Nottingham Forest brought in 300 players, and Steve Cooper is still finding it difficult to figure out who to put where.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. My bet for this one is, listen, Brighton have been great away from home, 22 points, 4th best in the league. Chelsea at home, just 23 points. So really poor there. I'm banking Brighton this time. Brighton tie and no bet at minus 109.
That
Just
is,
cover yourself.
I love that bet, by the way.
Cover yourself. And I think I know they're on the road, but they're so good on the road. They smashed them 4-1 last time. And like Pep said, and the last time I say it today, I promise, maybe the 5th block. We'll see. Brighton's the best team in world football.
Yeah.
Right? So that's my bet for this one. Moving on to Forest against Manchester United. Listen, desperate times for Forest, but desperate times for Manchester United. Announced on Friday, not at time of taping, not officially confirmed, but Varane could be out for the season. Lisandro Martinez out for the season, and Marcus Rashford out for a few weeks as well. Listen, they're right now teetering on the 4th place battle right now for your Spurs.
Yeah.
It's good news.
Yeah.
This is going to go down to the wire.
Yeah, that's 3 of 4 of their best players out. I mean, Casemiro to me is probably at the top of that list.
He's back this weekend for suspension.
Yeah, which is huge for them. This is not good for Manchester United. I mean, fans are going to think, okay, those 2 center backs are out. Who comes in? Oh, it's Harry Maguire, Victor Lindelof. What are we going to do here? And there's still a lot to play for, right? In that second leg against Sevilla, and then you have this weekend's games as well. For Manchester United, this is the worst timing possible, and it could put a damper on what should be ending as a really good season.
Listen to their schedule. They have to, they play Forest this weekend, okay? They have Sevilla next week. No Bruno Fernandes for that game, suspension. In the Sanchez Pizjuan, not an easy place to play. Then they have Chelsea, Brighton, Tottenham, Aston Villa, and Brighton again. And we know Martinez, Varane likely out, Rashford, who knows? This is fantastic news if you are not a Manchester United fan.
There's a few of us out there, I think. But yeah, I mean, listen, it's been a good season. They've made some real steps in the right direction, but they've got to finish top 4. So I think if you're a United fan, you should be very, very concerned.
The Charms, they won the Carabao Cup.
They have the Carabao Cup. You're right. I stand corrected.
Top 4 Carabao Cup.
You know what? It depends who you ask. For a team like
Yeah.
United, it's obviously
it's
top four.
yeah.
But for a lot of clubs, it'll be the cup. Quickly, your bet for this one.
Yeah, I got under 2.5. City Forest are good at the City ground, especially against top sides. They beat Liverpool, they drew Chelsea, they drew City, and with Manchester United hurting in terms of players, I'm going to go with under 2.5.
Yeah.
I think you're laughing there.
No, you're not laughing at
Albert's
that bet?
No, I'm not. I'm just laughing at everything that's happening right now.
Well, listen, missing.
Laughing at Manchester United.
Yeah, exactly. We're missing Marcus Rashford. Where are the goals going to come from?
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
Jadon Sancho. I mean, he came back from that hiatus to collect himself. Looked pretty good.
Yeah.
For a couple of weeks, and then once again, it's just disappeared.
Well, return
Out of
of
nowhere.
Wout Weghorst.
Yeah, maybe.
Big Wout scored against Forest last time
Yeah,
they played.
and
Actually,
there you go. So
That
this
was
is
the
him.
goal.
He needs to score his goals now.
You better hope so.
I better hope so. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've been
yeah.
talking him up all season.
Since the World Cup, actually.
I have.
You love a big striker, don't you?
I
Simple
do.
as that.
I love an Andy Carroll.
All right, let's look at some of the other games to round out the weekend in the Premier League right now and what we think might happen, what might not happen here. Spurs, Bournemouth, Sarah. Listen, Bournemouth, they're still the bookies' favourites to be going down. Inconsistent, but no one's more inconsistent than Spurs. So what do you
So I got both teams to score here simply because of that. Also, that's why you got over 2.5. I think Spurs will get away with the win here. They're at home, but Bournemouth have scored against Liverpool, Arsenal, City. They can score against them. They can sure as heck score against Spurs. Those are way better teams. And also, Bournemouth has been this team that has been doing really well against top 10 sides. And I actually think they're gonna stay up. I don't know what it is about this team, but they win when it matters. And so I think, I'm not sure, it's hard to back Spurs because they're so inconsistent. I think they're gonna win, but go for the goals here. I think Bournemouth will be able to get one past
Yeah,
them.
I mean, Forest, Southampton, Everton have all scored against Tottenham, so I wouldn't be too concerned about getting goals.
Oh,
from
I like that
Bournemouth.
one.
Yeah.
I like that for sure. All right, Ellie, can you put the ball back up there? I have, Leeds, Liverpool. Man, I think there'll be goals in this one as well, by the way. As bad as the Reds are purported to be, last week we saw again against Arsenal what they can do. Mo Salah to score 2 more is at plus 460.
Crazy.
He's actually playing pretty well right now, and Leeds cannot defend. Right?
Mo Salah to score 2 or more though, James.
I love
Plus
that.
460? You kidding me? So
I don't know.
Mo's been great this year.
He's been great,
Not
but
up to
2,
his
I don't
high
know.
standards, but still, by most goal scorers would love his record at the moment. And Leeds, like I said, are a team that are just crumbling right now.
Yeah.
I don't know what they are. Liverpool are desperate for something positive, as they still have crazy hopes to finish top 4. They're not going to finish top 4, 10 points out. So I've Mo for that one. Birdie, Wolves against Brentford. I always kind of dismiss when I see Brentford in games, but it's such a mistake because I love Brentford.
I love Brentford too. I think, but they're teetering around this territory where maybe not so much to play for. They're safe. There's not many teams in the Premier League at the moment who have nothing to play for. I would say maybe Fulham and Brentford. I know Brentford want to finish a European position, but I think they would take a draw. Wolves will definitely take a draw at home. And when I see the biggest number on the board being the draw, I got to go with that.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, put the board back up there, Ellie and Sarah. What's the next one for you? Your Southampton Palace. Now,
Yeah.
listen, Palace coming off 5-1. It's Roy Hodgson ball, isn't it?
Yeah, Palace plus money. You know, Southampton worst team in the league. It's pretty simple to me here. There's not much to go off.
You don't want to get into a depth analysis on Crystal Palace against Southampton? No?
It's the big
Thank
game
you.
of the weekend.
Everton against Fulham. Listen, this is a huge one for Everton.
Yeah.
Obviously, 27 points, tied for third last in the table right now. But they're at Goodison Park. They're a different team. And Sean Dyche has them playing good defence. Everton to win and under 2.5 total goals, plus 310. I think it's money in the bank because Fulham without Mitrovic are just not the same team.
No Mitrovic and no Marco Silva, who'd want to get one over on Everton. He's pretty vocal on the sidelines too, so I think they're really going to miss him. And if there's one team who truly has nothing to play for, it's Fulham. And based on recent performances, that's what I've been seeing. And I love Everton at Goodison Park. That's a great
You
bet.
forget about the Marco Silva era
Yeah.
at Everton.
Yeah.
It's kind of been dwarfed by the
Wrongly
Frank Lampard
dismissed,
era
I think. Yeah.
and the Ancelotti era at Everton and the
Rafa Benitez.
Rafa Benitez era Everton.
How bad of a signing was that?
Politically, it wasn't a good sign.
No.
He's a very good coach, but that's not what we're here to discuss
Is he though?
on this show. All right, we come back by popular demand. No Mikey this week, right? So no red card, yellow card. It's the better version. It is attack, defend, go nowhere.
Room 442 is presented by North Star Bets. That's a win.
Welcome back to Room 442. Time now for attack or defend. It's a segment where basically I'll put out kind of a polarizing opinion and I'll enforce one of you to attack it or defend
Here we
it,
go.
or defend it, or attack it. All right. So to start things off, here it is. Already, Kevin De Bruyne is the Premier League's greatest ever midfielder. Now, there's a poll done this past week by a visual game, and De Bruyne was, according to over 1,000 views, was a better midfielder than Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, Paul Scholes, Vieira, Yaya Toure, Mesut Ozil. Okay. In serious though, this is what people think, that he's that good.
Who are these people?
100 assists in the league.
Yeah.
You don't agree? So, Albert, I'm going to ask you to attack that.
Right. No, to me, the best midfielder in the Premier League history has to be Paul Scholes. I mean, 11 Premier League titles. I mean, he did nothing wrong. This is a guy that Zidane was talking about for years, how he's like untouchable. He doesn't make any mistakes. So I just think the longevity of Paul Scholes, what he's done, trumps Kevin De Bruyne. I also, I might have to put Frank Lampard, even Steven Gerrard, Yaya Toure, David Silva ahead of Kevin
Roy
De Bruyne.
Keane?
Roy Keane is in there as well. Ryan Giggs. I think those guys have put in a lot more time than Kevin De Bruyne. I love Kevin De Bruyne, by the way. I just don't think he's there yet.
All right. Defend it.
Defend. Yeah, I actually think he is. I would actually agree with that, genuinely. I think he's way more technical than any of the players that you mentioned.
Ooh.
And I think he has more of an effect on the pitch than those players. When Kevin De Bruyne is not playing with his team, whether that be City, Belgium, whatever, you can feel that emptiness. He's not only such an amazing midfielder, but the presence he brings on the pitch, the balls he creates, I find there are only very few players that can see football like that, and he's one of them. He's extremely gifted, not to take anything away from Scholes, Lampard, Stevie G, but to me, I think technically Kevin De Bruyne is much better than that.
It's a good argument. I think the difference between him and those other players you've mentioned there is that they all had a real edge to them, right? Scholes was nasty, Keane, legendary. Gerrard would go over the ball if he had to, or throw an elbow. Had that X factor. De Bruyne technically is so wonderful. We know that. Maybe the best passer out of all those players. Hasn't quite got the goals in his CV just yet.
Frankie was scoring 20 goals every season.
Exactly, right? So that's, I guess, numbers-wise.
You know what it is too, Sharms? It's hard to, it's almost unfair to compare eras, right?
Of course it is, yeah.
So that's why I don't really like doing this thing. But I mean, when you have to make these comparisons, I think you have to look at longevity and what they've done in their career.
I love it. Whenever we ever argue about eras, we have to always premise it by saying we hate these arguments, but we kind of love them because we always do them. But
I love watching. Like, there's nobody better maybe in the Premier League to watch right now. I mean, we talk about Haaland, but technically and what he can do, it's Kevin De Bruyne for sure.
Yeah, and listen, De Bruyne's era isn't that far removed from some of those players, right?
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not talking about Glenn Hoddle or Brian Robson's era in the 80s.
fantastic, yeah.
Wonderful player.
Best?
He might be the best midfielder that I've ever seen.
Right.
Yeah, he's pretty special.
Smooth, silky.
Oh, silky smooth. Yeah. Not a great coach,
Oh, sorry.
but still. All right, next one. All right, Liverpool should spend their entire budget on Jude Bellingham. All right, now I want to roll in a clip here from Jurgen Klopp when asked just about the whole Jude Bellingham situation this past week.
When I ask a 5-year-old at Christmas, what do you want for Christmas? And I tell you, I want to have, I don't know, a Ferrari. You wouldn't say, oh, that's a good idea. You would say, no, it's too expensive, and anyway, you cannot drive it. So, and that's how it is. If this kid is then the whole life unhappy because he cannot get a Ferrari, that would be a really sad life. It's just what can you make, what can you do, and then you do it, and then you work with that, and nothing else to say about. And it was always how I worked.
All right. I kind of get what he's saying there. I mean, he was saying, listen, I can't talk about Bellingham, but he kind of was. The reports are that they've pulled out of the race to sign Jude Bellingham. They can't afford it. Man City, Real Madrid right now, scrapping it out for his signature. So Liverpool should spend their entire budget on Jude Bellingham. Albert, attack.
No, absolutely not. They need some major surgery in the midfield. I mean, if you look at their midfield right now, Fabinho, should he stick around? Probably not. Thiago's always injured. James Milner's past it. Naby Keita hasn't worked out. Jordan Henderson's getting past that. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain has never really been a guy who sticks to starting 11. Then you have Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, and Artur Melo and Basic. Those are some players you need to build around. But I just named maybe, 3 or 4 midfielders need to be on their way out. You can't replace them with one guy. You need more than that.
All right, Sarah, defend that statement.
Yeah, you're really throwing me in there, James.
That's a defend, Sarah.
Well, listen, they've talked about wanting him for so long. They should go through and do it because I think Bellingham is, we know, one of the next big talents. We've seen him play at Dortmund. We've seen him play at England. And I don't think he's really bursted onto the scene yet because he has a ceiling in the German league, in the Bundesliga. For sure, if he comes to the Prem, I think he'll really, really grow as a player. He's going to be playing way more aggressive, difficult football. And I think that's going to actually suit him in order to be the better player that he is. So Liverpool going after maybe what is right now the best potential midfielder in the world, when that is their biggest problem, sounds like it makes a lot of sense to me. And I don't know. I mean, he's already English. There's some connections there. But I think it makes sense.
He's going to be England captain one day as well. So
Yeah.
you get that marketing standpoint. I think the big issue for me here is ownership at Liverpool with John Henry. And is the club for sale? Is it not for sale? If it's not for sale, where's the investment that he's promised coming from? Because this is a player that is available right now that apparently wants to come to Liverpool, right? He's hasn't come out and said that, but that's what everyone believes. He wants to come to Liverpool. They're a club that's really worked relationships with his family over recent years to set up this moment. And for the moment to come and then say, oh, yeah, but we can't afford him. I mean, it grates Liverpool fans, believe me. Are you one of the top clubs or are you not, right? Sometimes you've got to take a gamble, take a risk, right, and spend some money. Now, you're right, you're bang on Albert. They have so many voids to fill on that team this off-season. You can't spend it all on Jude Bellingham, but if you spend a big chunk of it, at least, I think it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Because these players are generational talents.
I know, it's just one guy. And I understand Liverpool maybe, quote-unquote, pulling out. But when you're going up against Manchester City and Real Madrid, they're going to drive that number up as high as they possibly can because they can afford it. And Liverpool can't do that. Liverpool isn't known to sign players.
They're not a super club.
At 100 North. Like that's a lot of money for one player when, as I mentioned, you need surgery in the middle of the park and potentially even on defense.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. It's a real tough one. It's just opportunities like this come around so rarely.
Yeah, and I wouldn't rule him out staying at Dortmund for another season. There was a report of that going around as well. Who knows?
Well, there was rumors about Haaland leaving the year before he left as well, and then they gave it one more year. He was under contract, and we'll jack the price. But I don't know if Bellingham's price could be any higher than it is right now, given what he did.
That's true.
At the World Cup.
And he said he wants to come to the Premier League, right? He said a goal of his is to one day go back to Birmingham and bring him up to the Premier League. So he wants to play in England.
I think Liverpool will look at their season and say, man, if not for the injuries, we'd be a lot better than we were. Yeah. Luis Diaz is just back this weekend, for example. Yeah. Curtis Jones, a player that was so good the last couple of years and was one to build around, has had a terrible season. They didn't expect that. So there's a lot of reasons why it's been a poor season, but not finishing top four, a lot less money coming in there as well.
Absolutely.
So for financial fair play, maybe that's a reason as well. So I'm just a bit blinkered here because I'm obviously a Liverpool fan and I thought he was coming to
a lot of what happened this season with the injuries and stuff is obviously going to affect individual players. So I wouldn't put down, like Curtis Jones having a bad season because he's just not a good player. I think I put it down to the overall atmosphere at Liverpool. I mean, it's difficult to be around tons of injured players, right? I'm sure that brings down the energy in the atmosphere at the club.
All right, next one. You ready for this one? Sarah will enjoy this one.
Oh boy.
If Leo Messi signs in Saudi Arabia, I will buy the shirt, as in you will buy the shirt. Sarah, attack that.
I won't.
No, you won't buy the shirt.
No, I won't.
I know you won't. This is perfect.
So I have to say that I won't.
That's the game.
Oh, okay.
Hey, you win.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, no, I wouldn't. No, I mean, I haven't bought a PSG Messi shirt, so done.
I see a lot of PSG.
Great case.
I see a lot of PSG Messi shirts. So I would totally buy it. I'm a kid aficionado.
I want the track jacket of PSG. It looks like
no,
it's
you
like
can't
80s
rock that. You can't rock
No. To be fair, PSG's like kitwear
Plus
is
you're Barca, right?
spicy.
You can't.
No, I wouldn't though.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
So had he been a Barca still the last couple of years, would you have bought the most recent Barca?
Yeah, I have the most
right.
recent
so
Messi
his
jersey.
reputation is tarnished in your eyes.
No, absolutely not. But I wouldn't wear another club kit. I feel like with us, especially with the three of us, like we're so diehard about our clubs. Like you would never like would you do you wear like Italian kits?
No.
Yeah, see that's the thing.
But I would like a Juventus Zidane
or like a Venezia.
That's nice.
Have you got an Argentina shirt? What would you wear?
Yeah, but we're talking about clubs.
You're a Spain fan though, right?
Yeah, but I got it for Messi. He's trying to come for me when we're talking about clubs and he's bringing up national teams. Does that make any sense? It doesn't, does it? No, that doesn't make any sense. We're talking about clubs. I wouldn't I didn't buy a PSG Messi shirt. I would never buy anything Saudi Arabia because I don't support that whatsoever. So no chance would I.
Did you see Ronaldo got his manager fired already? Harvey Garcia, sorry.
For sure.
Rudy Garcia. Rudy Garcia.
For sure it was his call.
I'm
This is
speculating.
Twitter.
Come on, of course it's because of
know, I
Ronaldo. They
don't
wouldn't
know.
fire him without asking Ronaldo first.
Yeah, probably.
Right?
not.
Apparently
That's
he was
true.
unsatisfied with
Yeah.
the training methods and the tactics.
He's probably going to start training, running the whole training for their club.
we
I would,
need it.
I would buy the Messi kit.
You would, eh?
It's a 1 of 1.
No, you wouldn't.
Well, it's not
I already
one.
ordered the
I'm sure
Ronaldo
there's-
one. It's
sure
on the
there's-
Where's
way.
your PSG
From,
Messi shirt?
Really?
From Alibaba. No, I haven't. I probably should though.
Before he leaves for MLS.
Yeah.
All right, one more. Well, there's 2 more for you if you have time. The Italian Serie A is on the cusp of a major comeback. All right, attack that. Do you disagree?
Man, that's a tough one. On the cusp, maybe
Champions
but-
League is the point, right? They're having a good Champions
Right.
League into AC and
Right.
Napoli. It's going to be an all-Italian, likely semi-final in the Champions League.
I think that's difficult with the Premier League out there. I still believe La Liga is an absolute powerhouse in the world right now. I think globally Serie A has issues in terms of popularity. It's not as easy to access the Premier League and La Liga. Even here in Canada, you can watch La Liga on TSN. I mean, if you want to watch Serie A, I don't even know where you go now to watch.
TLN shows Serie A
There you
every
go.
weekend.
TLN is a
Every
random
weekend.
channel that we have here. Yeah, so I think okay, they're on the come up, so to speak. But I think globally they're not going to touch the Premier League or La Liga right
Uber,
now.
I think, have the Serie A
Yeah.
at the moment.
Okay.
But again, the streaming service, hard to get hold of.
Right.
So many streaming services. All right, Sarah, tell me why you think it is on the cusp of a great
Yeah, no, I
comeback.
actually genuinely do. We have 3 teams in the quarterfinals for the first time since 2005, 2006, when Serie A was everything. 2 teams in the Europa League quarterfinals. They're presenting themselves in Europe, which is one thing, but also look at a story of Napoli.
Mm-hmm.
We have talked about Napoli maybe just as much as we talked about Chelsea or Manchester United.
But we've only talked about Napoli.
But that doesn't matter. It's still a team. We're talking about some of the best football we've seen,
Mm-hmm.
some of the best players in Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia. We've talked about them so much. I think it's honestly a start for the Serie A to really come up again. Leagues go through slumps, and we've seen the Serie A go through this really deep slump after maybe 2012 when Inter was, just finishing their era of being excellent. But we saw the Serie A in the early 2000s, even in the late 2000s. They were AC Milan, Inter, Juve. They were so good. Roma. So I think it was just a matter of they've kind of gone through the slump, but they are coming back because we're seeing them competing in Europe. We're talking about them in Napoli being one of the best teams this season overall. And I'm honestly happy for it because I think it just makes football more exciting.
It also depends on what they're coming back to, because if we're comparing 90s Serie A,
Right.
Yeah.
that was on another level.
But that was before the Premier League was born, which
Right.
just took over because they did
Yeah.
other things so well.
And I also believe that for Serie A to be big again, massive once again, I think Juventus needs to be near the top of that league as well.
Yeah, and you must attract the biggest stars, right? And right now, the Osimhens of the world didn't go there for big money. They're going to leave for big money,
Yeah.
for sure. But I really hope they are back because you need more colour, I think, in
Absolutely.
European football. Last one here for you. Room 442 is a better show than the homestand show.
It is. The
I
end.
actually had you attacking that just to make it really tricky.
It's not better. Homestand is much better
Cover better sports than
Thank you, thank you.
442.
because I'm
you
not
you
on
tell
it.
me, Albert. So
Right.
defend one or the other.
That Room 442 is better than. Listen, Room 442 is a much better show than the homestand show when Michael Singh's not on Room 442.
Oh, very nice. I got
you
it
go.
slammed.
Mike
Mikey
drop.
Singh.
There we go, Mikey Singh.
Well done. That should be a block 5, but that should be. Mikey's back, by the way, very
Yes,
soon. I
he
promise
is.
you, next week. Okay. All right, when we come back, it is 2 block 5, which means
Yes.
we don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a free one. We'll freestyle. We'll wheel and deal with what's
Banter
going on. So don't go anywhere. Some kind of nonsense is coming up for you after the break.
Room 442 is presented by North Star Bets. That's a win.
All right, so before the break, we're talking about some leagues and how you access them through streaming services. And it is an issue, I think. As great as the product is, and you can get pretty much any game you want anytime now, if you're prepared to spend the money, it is expensive, isn't it? And I do wonder how many casual fans we are losing. The Premier League now, of course, on Fubo was DAZN before. Prior to that, it was on Sportsnet and TSN, where casual viewers could stumble across it. You can't do that now. MLS now going to Apple as well. I'm not sure if it's a good time or a bad time to be a soccer fan. There's more available if you're prepared to spend.
Yeah. Well, I need 3 or 4 apps to watch 4 different leagues. That's ridiculous. You got to pay at least $20 minimum a month to have each of them. It's not sustainable. And it was so much better, like you mentioned, James, when it was on cable television. You can come across it and watch it. I think that's how you really
Great panelists.
Yeah, great panelists. One being James Sharman. Yeah, just listen. I mean, it would help my wallet and my bank account if we didn't need all these apps. Or you might have to go the other way, which I don't know if I'm allowed to say the types of streaming I've gone to
Right,
try to find some-
the grey world,
yeah,
the grey
yeah,
zone,
exactly,
right?
yeah, the gray area. I mean, so yeah, it needs to be better. I think it needs to be all in one place. That's never probably going to happen, but it should.
Well, it might. I mean, right now, so you have Fubo for your Serie A, for your Prem. One Soccer's on there for your Canadian games.
Fubo has Liga
CPL.
too, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Liga.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You have the Zone for your Champions League
And Europa League
and Europa League.
and Conference League.
Yep. You have Apple for your MLS now. A few games are sprinkled on TSN as well.
Oh, best of luck if you're trying to
TSN La
watch the
Liga.
Copa
Yep.
Libertadores.
TSN La Liga, exactly, which is essentially online.
Yeah.
Another additional service you pay for. You need a lot of money to
crazy.
watch soccer nowadays.
You got to
right?
pick. You really have to pick and choose your spots.
And the quality, Sarah. We see them at Apple, growing pains right now. I know you and Stevie Coolwell spoke about it yesterday.
Yeah,
on Room
no. I
442.
mean, like the thing is, if you're paying for the streaming service, you expect that service to be, put the commentating aside. If you don't agree with that, I think that's very subjective. But you expect the service to be working and a good service. When your stream is constantly choppy and cutting out, it bothers people, especially like this is just me speaking as a fan, but it's frustrating because you've paid for it, so you expect it to be delivered.
Although
We've gone through the growing pains
she's
of
stealing a
engaging
neighbor's
streams.
Wi-Fi, though. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's true. You still have Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi. It's the only way to afford it.
But it's true, right? Before all these apps, you go through these illegal streams, right? And you're watching it. You can't even look at the numbers on the players because the screen is so terrible.
Yeah.
The connection is horrible.
I know.
That you pay $20+ a month. It needs to be perfect. It really has to.
I really think the future is going to be the individual leagues, getting them all in house,
Yeah.
and then selling it separately.
Well, there's that Netflix. What was it? Netflix of football, which is the Premier League.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Amazon do it as well
Yeah,
over there.
that's
So
what
it's
you gotta
still
do.
changing. You need lots of money. We're free. We are free.
Room 442 is presented by North Star Bets. That's a win.